There are no moral victories in sports, or are there? We'll tell you if the Guardians got one in their series against New York for the season. Shane Bieber won't be pitching for the Guardians anytime soon. We'll talk about his setback and what it means for the Guardians' rotation in 2025.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into a frenzied Friday, worrying about Shane Bieber's elbow and the Guardians' lack of offense as the Guardians fall to the Yankees in their season finale, but they come back home to face a tired Astros team. This is Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast in the Cleveland Guardians. We cover your Cleveland Guardians from the majors to the minors and the draft and everything in between. We're doing it 5 days a week. It's our favorite half hour of the day, and we hope it's yours as well. I'm Justin Lada. I have been covering the Guardians minor league system way back since 2007. I went through my credentials earlier tonight, actually, and did some new decorating. You can find all my minor league analysis on the Guardians over at the News Herald, the Morning Journal, Substack next year in Cleveland, and here 5 days a week with my friend, co-host, and lover of healthy elbows, Shane. No, you're my host. It's not Shane Bieber. It's Jeff Ellis. The AI transcription is going to love that. Well, the AI is not going to love that you're, or the AI is not going to love that you're muted, Jeff. So
it'll love it. It would want to be quiet. It's not gonna. It thinks I'm Tanner half the time. Now it's gonna. You're gonna confuse the heck out of AI. I am Jeff Ellis, one of the OG hosts here in Locked On Land when it comes to baseball. One of the first people they reached out to, and that's how you end up with 1,600 episodes with my voice on them. Before that, I was a longtime national writer at Scout 24/7, focused on prospects and the draft.
On today's episode, we'll get into the Astros preview for the weekend. They're currently, as we're recording this, playing a late game in Pittsburgh. We'll talk about if the Guardians can benefit from that. We'll, of course, talk about Shane Bieber's setback, what that means for him and the Guardians this year. We'll start off today's show talking about whether or not the Guardians got a moral victory against the Yankees for the season and maybe this final game of the series. We'll get into all that today. Before we get there, though, today's episode of Locked On Guardians is, of course, brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. If you are a new customer, you can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, Jeff, I personally really don't believe in moral victories in sports. I really don't. I think you win or you lose. The only way you can get a moral victory is if, like, some guy comes back from injury list and pitches really good, or maybe Jose. I don't know. Like, those are the only circumstances I can think that, or maybe that you really burn a team's bullpen in game one of a series, and it's a 3 or 4 game series, and now the rest of the bullpen's going to not recover the rest of the series. I don't think in a series finale or a season finale it really means anything. And I'm also not going to buy into the theory that it's a moral victory that you split the season series against the Yankees, because you want to know what? In 2007, I remember the Indians did not win a single game in the regular season against the New York Yankees. You want to know what? They won that division series. So I don't buy those things because I don't think they matter in October when it really matters. And I don't think it does anything for a team's momentum. I certainly don't think it means anything coming off a series finale when you're not going to see the team again until maybe October.
I think it matters to split the series. I think having a 3-3 split, I mean, if nothing else, it's just a very basic thing of, hey, you faced one of the best teams in baseball, you split half the games with them, that helps your record. The Yankees are tough. It's the number one offense of baseball by most metrics. It is a tough team that actually Cleveland starting pitching held up well against. And for someone like Tanner, who had ups and downs in the postseason, for someone like Gavin, who didn't really pitch in the postseason, someone like Luis Ortiz, who's had up and downs this year, I think there is a moral victory in going out there and knowing you are facing the best there is and performing well. Slade Ciccone has not had a lot of starts at the major league level, and there were some very ugly moments tonight. We still went 5 innings and only gave up 2 runs. That's a success every single time. So I think there is value overall in being successful against the best. I think there is a degree of, I know some of the bets, maybe it's not an extra level of confidence, but I think it just goes to show that, why this is a team that constantly gets doubted, constantly gets crud on by its own fan base and by national fan bases. of people just thinking they're not good enough or that they can't compete, ignoring the fact that, they seem to spend the last decade doing exactly that. And I think just continuing to stand toe to toe with the biggest dogs in the league is valuable. I think there is value in that.
There is. I'm not saying there's not. I just don't know if I buy it's a moral victory. I think your goal of every series should be to win the series, and they didn't do that. So I don't know if you can sit there and say, we got a moral victory. I remember when Butch Davis was the coach of the Browns, and he said about Jamal Lewis breaking the NFL rushing record against them, and they said, well, if you take away his 50-yard run, his 90-yard run, we held him to a really low average. But, it's the same people back in 2016 that wanted to say, well, the Indians aren't very good because if you take away the 14-game winning streak, they weren't really good this year. You can't take away things in baseball or sports. They happen. You can't take them away. You can strip out weird occurrences for sure, or maybe things that are fluky and try to normalize things. But the fact of the matter is, in sports, fluky things happen, especially in baseball. You can't control. You can take one fluky thing out and another fluky thing might replace it. I will say the one thing I do feel better about after this series is the starting pitching. Like you said, Tanner really pitched well against the Yankees, -1 pitch to Volpe. Luis Ortiz was great. Slade Ciccone was good, especially coming off of his last start. He made one bad pitch all night to Cody Bellinger, and he hit it for a home run. Other than that, I thought he was fantastic and worked his way out of trouble a couple times, which is very hard to do in Yankee Stadium against that lineup. So I will take some satisfaction in the rotation having a great series. They had a good month of May overall, and they've already lost Ben Lively, but Slade Ciccone, to me, like I said, he wasn't good against the Angels, but he fixed some things.
Upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, he does for sure. I think there's going to be more. There's definitely going to be more highs, but there might be more lows because we know Ben Lively was the steady Eddie, so you knew what you're going to get. I think you're going to get more. You might get some more starts like he had against the Angels. But the other thing we found is, okay, so they did a good job of keeping the Yankees lineup in check. None of these games got out of hand. I mean, the 4 runs was the most they scored, right? That was the highest run total in this series. So I'll take that against the Yankees and in Yankee Stadium, especially when there's really no excuse for them because everybody was healthy. Jazz Chisholm was back. They were all hitting well. They just came off I know they just came home.
Yeah, and they got Cruz back, even though they lost
Luke Weaver. Yeah, I'm talking about the offense specifically. Okay. Yeah. But what we learned too is the Guardians offensively this year don't have the ability to hit left-handers because David Fry was out and he's still rounding back into form or trying to get his season kick-started. Noel can't hit anything, and you don't have Lane Thomas, who wasn't very good when he was healthy anyway to start the season. Angel Martinez has better splits against lefties, but really was fishing tonight. The only fun thing tonight was José Ramírez. Like José Ramírez, again, I can't say it enough. How I'm glued to the TV now.
Is he on a heater?
He's on a heater. Well, he's always on a heater. He always is. But the fact that he got out in the first inning and on an infield hit, got to second base on an errant pickoff throw, and then stole third, I was like, he's going to manufacture a run by himself. I thought he was going to steal home or there was going to be another wild pitch or something because I was convinced he was going to score. But I don't know how many 30 home run hitters in baseball can get on with an infield hit like he did, advance second on an errant pickoff throw and steal third. Like, I don't know how many guys can do that. He is special, and make sure you're voting for the All-Star game. Jeff, the other thing I think we've learned, I've been meaning to bring this up all week, and I haven't brought it up. José Ramírez is obviously the team's best player. He's just a marvel. He's a future Hall of Famer. But this team doesn't win unless Steven Kwan hits. No hits tonight. In wins this season, Steven Kwan, Jeff, a 974 OPS in 33 games. In 27 losses this year for the Guardians, Steven Kwan is a 576 OPS. I find that to be a very revealing stat about the Guardians as an offense. Now, I'm not saying it's all on him. I'm just saying I think that's very revealing.
No, and I mean, it tracks because it when you follow this team, it's been definitely like when Kwan was hot and Jose was not, they were still able to get things done. But when it's been in reverse, it's been a lot more hit or miss.
We'll touch on more things on the Guardians offense in segment 2, but we'll also get into the setback of Shane Bieber, what's going to happen there, how it impacts his season, and the Guardians rotation as a whole. That's coming up next on today's Locked On Guardians.
Whether you're gearing up for back-to-back meetings, shuffling kids back and forth to activities, or tackling an endless to-do list, your morning sets the tone for it all. That's why you should start with the perfect cup of coffee crafted just for you. Enter Trade. So I chose from Trade Coffee, you can't see here, Space Cadet. This is their number one blend, so I decided to go with their bestseller. This is, you can read on the side if you are listening, it's clementine, nougat, and brown sugar. I quite enjoy it. It is one of those. I went and took the quiz, got some recommendations. It took about 30 seconds to do that. There are other top sellers, just to give you an idea. How about the Voice Trade, chocolate and almond butter sweetness for days? Or maybe you'd prefer the Floris Bellis, which is rich chocolate flavors paired beautifully with a splash of orange acidity and a deeply caramel sweetness. Doesn't that all sound delicious? Well, I'll tell you, it's a fantastic coffee. I was very excited to get it. I know Justin and I are both enjoying our Trade coffee. So right now, Trade Coffee is exclusively offering our customers 50% off of a 1-month trial at drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB. That's TRADE.com/LockedOnMLB for 50% off your 1-month trial. drinktrade.com/LockedOnMLB.
The other frustrating parts about this game on Thursday night was that they had chances in the 7th inning. They had the bases. Was it 7th or 8th? They had the bases loaded.
7th.
They had chances, and just the bottom of this lineup continues to be a black hole. We were talking yesterday, obviously, if our everydayers will recall, about the catching position of Bo Naylor. Now, we had a lot of responses of people, and I one of them was talking about how obviously the Guardians emphasize defense with catching, and not that Austin Hedges is an upgrade offensive, but he didn't play in this game because they're still worried about a concussion because he took a backswing to the helmet on Wednesday night. But with Naylor, like it's fine to not really get a ton of offense out of your catcher if you're going to prioritize defense. That's not going to go away next year, even if there's the automatic ball strike challenge system, because it's only going to impact a few calls a game. So that's still going to matter. You're still going to have to frame pitches and everything else. But it's fine to have that in your lineup, but you have to have other hitters to make up for that. And when you're playing guys like Will Wilson and John Kenzie Noel, and when Naylor is not hitting, that's 3 automatic outs in your lineup. And that's very hard to do.
Yeah, I think actually it's not acceptable. And the reason I'll say it's not acceptable is because Bo Naylor was, the can't miss hitting prospect. And
that's fair. That's a first round pick.
The reason it's not acceptable is he was a bat first guy who hit in the minors and showed a good eye in the minors. And now like whenever we talk about the huge maw, the gaping black hole between major leagues and the minors, look at Bo Naylor. Bo Naylor, outside of 1 year hit, had a great eye at the plate and walked at a very high rate. And always, he had lower batting averages, but not what he has now. And he's just gotten eaten up at the major league level. He had about 3 good months total. And since then, he's basically catcher Miles Straw. Like that's where we're approaching with his on base.
There's power at least.
There's power, but it's similar WRC plus. Like it is, Straw had a different profile, but he was in the 60s. Bo Naylor's in the high 70s. And Bo
Naylor's not a Gold Glover as a catcher. Yeah. He's a good defensive catcher, but he's not a Gold Glover.
No, he's not. There's points where you can make case Miles Straw was the best defensive center fielder in baseball. But that's why it's a disappointment. Not because the catcher position, and again that position is a wasteland across baseball, but it's the fact that, you and I both had him as the number 1 hitting prospect in baseball before, or in the organization before he debuted that year. I think it was him 1 and Angel 2 about that time, and like Valera 3. And to me, that's more the issue is the failure of him to translate. Which again, I don't want to sit there and like make everyone feel like, oh, no prospects are ever going to work for us. But like that's also why sometimes it takes longer. That's why they're not like just rashly promoting your favorite minor league prospect. Because
thank you. Yes,
it's a process, and Bo Naylor's still struggling with that process to even approach acceptable levels. Let alone John Kenzie Noel, who again, I want him to prove me wrong every single time he comes up with his big smile, his great work ethic, his personality. It's my daughter's favorite player. She would like baseball more if John Kenzie Noel was good. Like I want him to make me look like a fool, and instead every at bat he ends up walking away looking like a non-major leaguer. And it's just tough. The bottom of the lineup, especially when they're facing lefties right now, because at least Nolan Jones has shown some signs of life. And I'm going to just sit here and scream it again. Will Wilson shouldn't play. Let Schneeman play every day. Schneeman every day.
Yeah, I can't have this conversation anymore about Will Wilson and John Kenzie Noel. Like, we had that whole debate on Tuesday about whether or not who would you like to see play more or less. And I said, at least give me Noel because he might run into one, whereas Will Wilson does nothing to impact the game except walk. I know the odds of him walking are higher than the odds of Noel hitting a home run, but I also would rather just take the home run, and I don't care about the walk because I'm not tied to Wilson for anything. And I don't know. Yeah, I would let Nolan Jones play every day. I don't know who replaces Noel on the roster, because if you bring up Jonathan Rodriguez, it's going to be the same situation. He's going to sit the same amount of time, and he also probably has the same poor pitch recognition skills that Noel has. He might walk a little more because there's like some passivity, but like he's just he's not going to hit this breaking stuff, and he's not going to play a good right field. Noel is a exceptionally better defender than Rodriguez in right field. They have equal arms, but Rodriguez isn't going to give you a whole lot more than Noel is. Just play Nolan Jones, and I don't know, figure something else out in center field.
Trade for a platoon bat. Like we're kind of getting to the point where it's like they need to consider trading. One of those things to look at is like a fourth outfielder who could be that. Or
it's supposed to be Lane Thomas was supposed to be that guy, but it just hasn't worked for him, and he's hurt this year. Who knows when he won't be back for a while because plantar fasciitis is.
It's just a question mark injury. It's one of those things. He could be back in a week. He could be back in 2 months. Like that's the problem with plantar fasciitis. It's a who knows type of deal.
It's an odd year. So what is Ryan Rayburn doing? Was he I forget what it was. Was it even or odd years with him?
I also can't remember, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it was one of those. It was one of those things.
You're right, 100%.
If it was, I think it was odd years. I think odd year Rayburn was the good Rayburn. Even year Rayburn was evil. So it's an odd year. Bring back Ryan Rayburn, or Brandon Geyer is staying in good shape. I don't know. Can he still play? They need something. Where's Jordan Luplow still hanging around baseball somewhere? I don't know. They do need someone.
Brandon Geyer could probably still get hit like 15 times in a season. He could just do that. Like
there you go.
He's just got to. Today I was like, come on, Noel, just lean into it. I just had that major league moment on that one. Inside pitch, like, just lean in.
Big enough to take up the batter's box. Yeah. It's really tough right now. I mean, like I said, Kwan's got to hit because for them to win, Jose can't do it alone. Santana continues to be great, and for all the people who are worried about Santana being over, he's just fine. Manzardo hit the home run the other night, but I'm still not totally thrilled about his disappearance. But we have to be patient with Manzardo because, like, he's still a young player, and he's not going to be the guy right away. Like, I think we have to accept the fact that he's just not going to be the guy right away. Like, he's going to have some struggles. And then David Fry, who could help you against lefties, it's going to, he can only DH, and it's going to be a while before he gets his footing, if he does at all. Like, you've been saying, and I'm not going to say this is true yet because it's only been a couple of bats in the majors, but like you were saying, there's no guarantee David Fry comes back and looks like he did a year ago because it was a very small sample. He only made the All-Star team, and he was on a heater. Not the heater Jose was on, but he was on some kind of heater, and that was it. Like for a couple months in the second half, he was almost unplayable. So we don't even know if we're getting that version of David Fry back. I'm confident at some point he can hit lefties, but I don't know when that's going to be and how exceptional that's going to be. But yeah, it's tough right now. It is, and there's really no obvious fit in the minors to replace anybody. Like, Juan Brito's hurt, and DeLauder's not even playing well, let alone he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to not build up his volume because he's playing 2 or 3 days a week at the most. And Kefis is fine, but I mean, are you going to replace Manzardo with Kefis? Like, or you can't replace Noel with Kefis because he's not a lefty, or maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting over here like looking at data, like do you try to get Santiago Espinal, who's got a 105? It's like you're just like, who's Eric Wagaman in Miami? No one knows this Miami roster. I don't know who this guy is. He's got like, that's where we kind of are. It's not
my cousin who doesn't follow baseball anymore. Whenever I see him, I like to play the game of, is this a state senator or is it a baseball player? And he's about 50-50. I bet you he would name 0 players in the Miami Marlins roster.
It's a situation too where it's like, you're right. Lane Thomas is what you're hoping would be there, and you're hoping Fry would be healthy and all of this stuff. But they're right now, it's like a year ago they were built to kill lefties, and this year they're just getting slaughtered by lefties.
Yeah. The good news is the rotation has shown signs of life. I do feel really good about where the rotation's heading, even without Shane Bieber. We'll talk about that next on today's Locked On Guardians. The NBA Finals, they are here. Oklahoma City and Indiana. Even though it's not the Cavs, we know this is going to be a fun series if you're an NBA fan. There are going to be highlight-worthy performances. They might have players' fathers yelling at other players. Who knows? Momentum shifts, can't miss moments. If it's a game-winning shot, a breakout player, there has never been a better time for you to get on the action. And FanDuel is making it easy for you to stay in all the games during the finals, during baseball season. They have player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more way to stay and play smart and win big. I was checking the Guardians and Astros line for the weekend, at least for Friday. You've got Colton Gordon for the Astros. You've got Logan Allen for the Guardians. The Guardians are favored by 1.5 at home. The Astros are going to get into Cleveland pretty late on Friday morning. Maybe that'll do something about it. Over-under is 8.5. We just talked about the Guardians' offense not being very good right now. So I'm probably taking the under in that game. But, those are two pitchers who might not be great. So it's going to be a tough one. Tough call there. There might be easier bets to make. If you're new to FanDuel, it is the perfect time for you to sign up. Head over to FanDuel.com. Place your $5 bet. If it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel. They are an official sports betting partner of the NBA. It was not good news for the Guardians before the game on Thursday. It was not good news after. So Shane Bieber is not going to make his start tonight in Akron. He felt some arm soreness after his bullpen on Tuesday. That's kind of why the Guardians pushed his start from Thursday to Friday, and now that start is off on Friday. So he's got to visit Dr. Keith Meister, who did his Tommy John surgery. And I'm just going to say up front, I'm not going to sit here and get all doomy and gloomy. If there's one thing therapy has taught me is not to jump to the worst conclusions of things that could happen. Don't completely catastrophize things. That's something I've learned in therapy. We don't know all the.
Matt.
Yes, it's a prototype. Comment below if you remember that reference. I need to watch that again. I'm not going to go there. Okay, I'm not going to be Tom Zimbakowski. Okay, I'm not going to go there. The news may or may not be good. Like, Stephen Vogt characterized it as a setback. A setback could be he's got to wait and not throw for a week or 2 weeks. A setback could be that he's going to be out for a little bit longer. I don't know. It's definitely disappointing. It's definitely not good. But I'm not going to sit here and jump down the ladder and say, well, that's it. His season's over and the Guardian season is over and he's not going to pitch this year. Like, I'm not going to go to those conclusions. It's not good, but I'm not going to jump off the roof with it just yet. But I don't know. We'll get more clarity back on Monday. But I would probably say
there's going to be more today during the broadcast multiple times. There's more info in the morning.
They should have more tomorrow. So I'm sure before tomorrow's game or today's game, Friday, they'll have more information. So we'll see what the follow-up on that is. But yeah, it's not great for sure. I'm disappointed because, like I said, I was kind of obviously on the week driving the bandwagon and he was going to come back and look really good and strong. And obviously that didn't happen. But the important thing to remember here is this with these rehabs is that you just don't know how your arm is going to feel until you get into competition. Like, you can throw bullpens and you can throw on the side and you can face hitters on a backfield until you get into a true competitive environment where you're facing hitters from an opposing team. That's a real game. You don't know how your elbow is going to respond. You just don't. Sometimes these surgeries don't work out, but this could also just be some soreness and he's got to figure out, maybe it's got to slow the progression down. We originally were saying, after the All-Star break, and then we got excited that it was going to be probably by the end of June. Now maybe it will be the All-Star break, and that's okay. That was what I expected anyway. And I'm okay with that if that's still the case, hopefully.
Shane Bieber has 7 big league seasons. How many times in those 7 big league seasons did he eclipse 130 innings?
3 times?
Twice. And that is just kind of always my concern with him is, 24 was the 2 starts. 23 was he had 21 starts, but they were not great. I know his FIP was a 387, but there was a lot of, the strikeout rate was under 8, and there were struggles, and he had this kind of slow decline, and it just makes me more nervous than Justin. I got to be honest, and it's that thing that we kind of take Tommy John for granted, that guys are going to come back and be at least somewhat close. It's not always a clean ship, and hopefully it is just a small setback here. But I don't know. I think there's this part of me that has all along just kind of viewed anything we get from him as a bonus. It's an expensive amount they paid for him, but I mean, the Tigers paid.
It can't be a bonus for what you paid.
The Tigers paid, 16 million. I don't know if we've talked about that for Alex Cobb, who I don't think has pitched all this year either, has he?
No, he made one rehab start, and he didn't feel good either.
No, he had to get shut down, and that's because that's what starting pitching on the market costs. And again, that's why this team made the moves they made this offseason. So they traded for Ortiz. That's why they also added Hartle and Kennedy. It's why they went out and they
Ciccone, yeah.
They went and got Ciccone, and then they added Jake Junis. It's funny because Jake Junis was essentially a small sample size. It's like why the Cubs traded for Eli Morgan is why the Guardians signed Jake Junis, and there it hasn't worked out for the other side. But Junis is also a guy you could stretch out as a starter because it's so expensive to add starting pitching. It is ridiculous, and yeah, $14 million is a lot, but for a starting pitcher, it's chump change. And
exactly why they need to buy to sign that extension.
Yeah, so it's a situation that's. I am concerned. Like, there's no way around it. I am massively concerned because his body has been betraying him for years. Before the elbow, it was the shoulder. And we always talk about, the best indicator of future health is past health. So his body has just not been able to hold up to the wear and tear. If this becomes and maybe it's because I'm the person who grew up being a big Brandon Webb fan, and, Cody Allen.
I love Brandon Webb.
Yeah. Webb and Allen are both guys who never made it to their 30s as starters. Like, some guys just wear down quick, and all that stuff lives in the back of my head. I know somewhere someone out there is like screaming that line from Talladega Nights about "Don't put that bad magic on me" or something like that. And I get it, and I want all of this to be wrong and just to be paranoia, but I can't quite go. I'm just I'm going to be nervous until we see something better. But I will say I feel much better about where this staff is, as we're seeing, all of these young pitchers finally look like they're taking steps, where Bieber is the icing on the cake. He's not the cake itself. He is the icing on the cake. You've got enough pieces there.
A lot of money for icing, though. Like,
it is. But doesn't icing make the cake? Does anyone want to eat cake without icing? No.
If it's ice cream cake,
then the ice cream's the icing. You need the icing for the cake to be good, right? For the cake to be truly great, you need the icing. It's expensive icing, but that's because for the cake to be great, you need it.
What about a casada cake with jam in the middle?
You still need a cover. I guess. I don't know. I've lost this analogy. I've lost it.
I was determined to take it away from you.
You've been successful.
It's just expensive to consider him that. Like last year, Matt Boyd was the guy where I was like, I compared it to finding $20 in your pocket, or with inflation, let's call it a 50. I don't know. Or a $50 Amazon gift card. I don't really know. Shane Bieber, not the same case, because the cost was exponentially higher. Like, John Means to me is this year's Brandon is Matt Boyd, not Shane Bieber. Like, if John Means comes up and does anything good this year, then that's definitely like found money. The Shane Bieber thing is a lot different to me. I never thought of it as icing on the cake. I'm not saying can they make the playoffs without him? No, because they did it last year, and the rotation's in much better shape than it was a year ago. And that's, again, what I took away from the Yankees series, is that if those three pitchers can go to Yankee Stadium and hold the Yankees to the runs they did, I'm confident they can. It may not always be pretty. It may take some time to get things consistent, but I still believe in them a little bit more. They've got to figure out some things in the bullpen, and obviously the offense is just kind of a mess right now. But the rotation for this offense, where it is, the rotation has to be the backbone. And if they can get Bibee and Williams and Ortiz and Ciccone on a roll, they'll be fine. And if they do get Bieber back and he does pitch this year, then yeah, he will be $14 million icing, and we'll see what happens.
Can I give you two trade candidates? One has a 202 weighted runs created plus against.
I thought there were no sellers If there are no sellers.
I got two guys here to mention. One has a 202.
There's only buyers, and there's only the Colorado Rockies. I don't think
There's a
sell.
202 WRC plus against lefties, and the other one has a 177 WRC plus against lefties, which are both better than John Kenzie Noel's negative 17 WRC plus against lefties. So we have a guy playing against lefties who has a negative value. The 202 is Ernie Clement, and the 177 is Ahmed Rosario. So just having some fun with you.
That's the show this week, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and have a good weekend, and tip your waiters.
I would take either of them right now. I mean, I'm not lying. I would take either of those guys right now. And
I
anyone,
would take Ahmed Rosario at second base right now.
100%. Like anyone who
says, with Schneeman.
Yeah, anyone who says anything otherwise is just like,
I can't believe we're there.
But we are.
I can't believe with the years of the Ahmed wars we went through, and all, again, I know we have this conversation all week, but stockpiling the middle infielders like they did, and all the Ahmed wars we had, and Andres Jimenez is in Toronto and not playing well, and Ahmed Rosario is a guy we're like, oh, they should trade for him. I can't believe that's where
I was happy when they cut Ernie Clement because I thought he was being overused by Tito. I was glad when they traded Ahmed because I thought he was blocking guys, and now both of them.
Could be better. Yeah. What a weird circumstance. Hey, the good news is Angel Hanao is back in Akron, so that's fun.
That's huge.
One of the guys is healthy. And the Astros are playing essentially a West Coast game in Pittsburgh because of the rain on Thursday. So they're going to get into Cleveland very late on Friday morning. And Framber Valdez is going on Friday for the Pirates, so you miss him. The only thing is you got to play Hunter Brown on Saturday, so that's it's not ideal. Hunter Brown, if Max Freen's not the Cy Young, then it's Hunter Brown. I guess the only good news is he's a right-hander, not a left-hander, so the Guardians might be in better shape. And then the rubber match is Lance McCullers, who is pitching for the first time in 3 years against Tanner Bibee. So this is a winnable series. The Astros are not the Astros they used to be. They're still in first place. They're still good, but Altuve is not what he used to be. They don't have Kyle Tucker. They don't have Alex Bregman. Yordan Alvarez is hurt.
Pena's been fantastic. He's honestly the best shortstop in the American League this year over Witt.
Pena and Paredes are both good.
That great. Cam Smith has a really high BABIP. Jake Myers, Victor Carantini have been solid, but you avoid Pena, avoid Paredes, and I think they have a chance to win this series. I honestly do.
I do.
And you are all winners. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts, as well as a big shout out to all of our everydayers. Because after a loss, that's always the group that sticks with us. I'm predicting they're going to take 2 out of 3 this weekend against the Houston Trash Cans.
I'm with you. All right, let's get rid of doom and gloom, Jeff. Guardians, 2 or 3 winners over the weekend. Let us know what you think. We'll be back on Monday. We'll talk Monday morning headlines from this series. We'll do a Bieber update. We got to talk about Tito coming to town with the Reds starting on Monday.
Again, thank you for joining us. Remember to rate and review, download daily. It helps. Hit the thumbs up, set it to auto downloads. You know the spiel. Thank you all, and go Guardians, go.